Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy Buzzworthy Bumblebee with Spike. So as we always do, let's take a look at that packaging first. We'll move the little guy over there, and we'll bring in that packaging. So you see the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy right up top. You've got some pretty good artwork there of Spike and Bumblebee. And then you've got Bumblebee's cute little head right there, Buzzworthy Bumblebee. And you have Bumblebee and Spike Witwicky right there. On the side, you get nothing. On the back, you get the product shots. So Bumblebee converts in 11 steps, and Spike converts in 1 step. Whew, that's pretty complex. And down here, you have all your manufacturing information, and over here, you have all your warnings. And the sad baby is always with us, so that's a comfort. And on this side, you get an Autobot logo and a little bit of Bumblebee's shoulder. Down at the bottom, it's good to know that this is recyclable. So that's it for the packaging. Let's take a look at what came in there. First and foremost, you do get your little page of warnings folded up conveniently for disposal. And then you get the instructions. Probably aren't going to need these, but hey, they're there. All right, and then he does come with 2 accessories. The first one is his pistol, and that is a very tiny little pistol there. It's just black molded plastic. There's no paint apps on it, and you do have just a couple of spots of molded in detail, but not much to speak of there. All right, next thing he comes with is the Spike Witwicky figure, but this really could be anybody because hey, that's chromed out. Who knows? That could be anybody. So you do have on this figure, though, some good molded in detail. You've got a couple little splotches of yellow there. And then you've got some little arm cannons right there overall. I guess for an inexpensive little figure, this isn't too bad. There is no articulation whatsoever on this figure except for the arms. And the arms can go up and the arms can go down. And then this backpack, which, I don't want to spoil the transformation or anything, but the backpack goes down, and there you have Spike in his human vehicle mode. So there you go. He does have a couple little hollow areas in the back. Again, the detail here isn't that bad, really. But then you look back here, and whew, that's a lot of hollow. But it is what it is. All right. And that is it for accessories. So now we will bring this little guy in for his close-up. And we'll have to bring him way in because he is tiny. So let's bring him in. There you go. Now that's a pretty good face sculpt. All things being equal here, for being a very, very small figure. I mean, this is a Legends class. Well, it's not Legends class, but it's a Legends class size figure. So he's pretty small, but that's good detail on that face, and you do get those painted blue eyes and the painted silver face. You do get that Autobot symbol right there on the chest. And, a little bit of molded in detail here and there. And then you get those headlights painted silver right there. Get those tiny little fists. And then from the side, you can see there's a little bit of detail there for the panel lines for the car, the belt line, and then down here you've got a little bit for that wheel well. He does suffer from the 2 different types of wheels, so he does have the mushroom peg up here and he does have the pin down here. Not a fan, but you're kind of getting what you pay for in this figure. And in the back, not too bad really. I mean, he's got a bit of a hollow head and he has some hollow ankles, but this is due to transformation. And then he has some hollow areas in the arms there, and that's just cost savings using less plastic. So, not too bad of a looking little figure. Could always be better, I suppose. So as far as articulation goes, you can move his head down. You can move his head up about that far. And his head's on a mushroom peg, but it starts running into geometry here. So you really don't want to take it any further than that unless you want to bust it off that peg and have to press fit it back on. So just enough maneuverability there to pose him. And down here at the arms, the shoulders are just on a ball joint. They'll come up this high before they start running into stuff. And if you move this little car wing out of the way, you can move it all the way around. And then you have at the bicep, this serves as your bicep swivel, rotation, wrist swivel, kind of encapsulates quite a bit. So, you know, you can pretty much maneuver this wherever you want. So it does not go all the way around. You get about right here, and it does want to start coming out of that ball joint. So be aware of that. But, you know, hey, you get 90 degrees of elbow bend, and on a figure this size, the articulation usually isn't that important. You get nothing at the waist, but the hips are on ball joints, so you do get a little bit of posability there. And then you have hip swivel below that. And then down here at the knees, you do get, this is kind of difficult because he wants to bend at the ankles, so you do get right at 90 on the knees. And then you do have this ankle tilt right there. That's part of the transformation. So you can get some, or not ankle tilt, but ankle swivel. And you can get some pretty severe amounts of that. Nothing as far as this ankle tilt, so you know he's kind of stuck like that. But overall, you know, for a little figure, you can still get him in some pretty decent poses. Nothing too dynamic, but he is what he is. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll get into transformation, and we'll put him into his car mode. So to get Bumblebee into his car mode, I'll bring him in a little bit closer so you can see him. You just want to take that little tiny head and push that head forward. This is going to give you clearance for the next step here. So let's move those wings out of the way. You're going to turn him around. Make sure that that head is still tilted forward. Grab the body, the back and the chest area, and bring this up. And you're going to just close that up right around his head. You have this little flap back here that you bring out, but if you're like me, you're going to keep bumping it with your hands, but you know, do what you can. Try to keep it out. And then come down here to the feet. Squeeze the feet together. Tilt these up. And trying to think of the best view here. Kind of give it the old accordion effect here. You're going to bring all this in like that, and you pretty much have the front end done. And like I said, I've collapsed this little panel in, so bring that little panel back out. And then for the arms / side panels of the car, you have these little transformation joints right here for the shoulders. So you're going to bring those in, swing those in, and as you do so, it's going to bring this wheel into alignment with this wheel. So bring that in, and that will draw all that in like that. And then it's a matter of tabbing everything in, lining everything up, and then you can drop this piece right there. You do have a little port and a little post, and then you do have this tiny little slot right there, and then that tab. So you're just going to align everything, give that a squeeze, give that a squeeze, and then you'll come over here and you do the same thing for the other side. So rotate that in, and then you will squeeze that in. Bring this wheel well down, align that port and that post, and then align this tab and this slot. Give that a little squeeze. When you do that, be aware of the location of your wheel, or your wheel will rub on this wheel well. So if you're experiencing that, just kind of squeeze everything and pry it and pull it out of the way, and that'll give you just enough clearance for your wheels to roll. And yeah, that's not too bad. I'm just checking my wheels here to make sure that I can roll. And there we have Bumblebee in his little nondescript car mode, which I think really doesn't look too bad. So yeah, there we have it. And he rolls pretty decently. So that's not too bad. So let's go ahead and we'll bring him in for the details. And most of this we've already seen because we saw it in robot mode, but let's go ahead and take a look. You do have those painted headlights. You do have those nicely painted windows too, which I think is a good offset to all the yellow on here. You do have the pinwheel and the mushroom peg wheel, which I'm not a fan, but hey, for a figure this price, I guess I'm not going to complain. It won't do any good anyway. And then back here, you've got some interesting detail. I almost want to say that this is a bit of an homage to the G1 Bumblebee. If you remember the G1 Bumblebee, you would pull this and his head would pop out. So that's kind of what that reminds me of there. I could be wrong, but that's just how it looks to me. And then there you have the other side. So you do have these little gaps. You know, they're not the worst. But overall, I think he comes together pretty well. And there he is from the top. There he is from the bottom. And you do get weapon storage in this mode, so you have that little port right there. You can take this little pistol and just line that pistol up, give it a squeeze. And I think it would have been really cool if they would have had a bit of a hollow area right here. That way it would have looked like a single exhaust tip coming out. But either way, I mean, it goes in, it hides away pretty good. And then you have little Bumblebee right there, all finished in his car mode. So let's go ahead and take a look at Spike. I know I've already spoiled it earlier, but let's get Spike transformed. Please pay attention. This is super tricky. I'm totally kidding. Flip this down. And, yep, there you go. So now you have Bumblebee, and we assume it's Spike, but we can't really see his face, so we can't know for sure. But there they are. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll bring in some comparisons so you can see how he stacks up against some of the other figures out there. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with some comparisons. And the first one that we have is G1 Bumblebee. And those guys are pretty close to being the same size. The G1's just a little smaller. Alright, the next one that we have is a Legends scale Bumblebee from the Bayverse films. The next one that we have is a Deluxe class Bumblebee from the 2007 Bayverse Transformers movie. The next one that we have is Bumblebee as he appeared in the Transformers Prime series. Next one that we have is the off-road Bumblebee that we saw in the Bumblebee movie from 2018. Next up is Bumblebee from the Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise line. And finally we have the last comparison, MP08, the Bumblebee Masterpiece. And just one real quick last comparison. We will compare the two Exosuit Spikes. So the one on the left is the one that came with the Buzzworthy Bumblebee, and the one on the right is the one that comes with the MP08 Masterpiece Bumblebee. Alright, so now that we have the vehicle mode comparisons out of the way, we'll get this little guy transformed back into his bot mode and we'll do some comparisons there. Alright, so the first thing that you want to do to transform this little guy is go ahead and grab his little pistol where we have the weapon storage, if you still have it in there, and give that a little pull. Take that out. And then you're going to want to start prying on these wheel wells and these arms. The wheel wells will start to come out, but the arms will want to come with it. So if they do, yeah, it's probably just as easy. Just kind of pop that out as well, and then pry that up and pull that wheel well. Do the same thing over here on the other side. Pull that wheel well. And if that arm wants to come with it, that's okay. Now you have both of those wheel wells out of the way, and just pull those back here to get them clear. And then you're going to take those arms anyway, and you're going to bring those out, and then you're going to swing this down in there just like that. and that's going to pull those shoulders out where they need to be. Then you can come down here to the feet and just unaccordion them. Grab that and give it the old pull. Pull that down as well. That's going to bring the toes and the heels out, and then you give this a gentle tug. Wiggle it a little bit, and then you have those legs nice and free. Now you can take this entire upper assembly here, and it's all going to spin around. So bring that around, and then when you do, you have this little panel here. Push that little panel in, and that will collapse right up inside the chest cavity, and that'll help keep Bumblebee together. Then you turn your attention to these arms, spin them around, orient them as such, and there you have little tiny Buzzworthy Bumblebee all transformed up in his robot mode. And of course you can't forget his companion, Spike. So again, watch carefully here. This can be tricky. Take that and flip it up. Boom. There you go. Alright, so what we'll do now is we'll get the camera readjusted and we will bring in some robot mode comparisons. Alright, so for robot comparisons, the first one we have is the G1 Bumblebee. Next up is the Bumblebee from the Bayverse movies, the Legends scale. Next up, we have the Deluxe Class Bumblebee from the Bayverse movies, the 2007 movie. Next one we have is Bumblebee, as we saw him in the Transformers Prime series. Next up is the Bumblebee off-road version from the Bumblebee movie, the studio series. Next one up is the Bumblebee from the Netflix War for Cybertron Trilogy, the Earthrise Bumblebee. And the last Bumblebee comparison we have is the MP08 Bumblebee Masterpiece. And the last comparison we have is just the comparison between the two Exosuit spikes. So the one on the left is the one that came with the Buzzworthy Bumblebee. The one on the right is the one that comes with the MP08 Masterpiece Bumblebee. Alright, so now we will get these guys out of the way, and I will give you my final thoughts. Yeah, guys, so my final thoughts on the Buzzworthy Bumblebee and Spike combo pack here. He's a cool little figure. You know, he's got a little bit more in design and engineering than what I was expecting. The Spike is a nice addition, but it's not much to speak of. The figure itself, the Bumblebee figure itself, has decent articulation. He has a couple of hollow areas, but he doesn't particularly feel like a cheap figure. This is definitely not something you're going to have on your shelf, or that a hardcore collector is going to have on their shelf. This is geared certainly more toward a child, something that they can play with. And as far as that goes, I think that, you know, this is sturdy. It's going to hold up. It's got a cute little car mode. I think kids will find a lot of fun with it. And it is very reminiscent for me of the G1 Bumblebee, where, you know, you just put it in your pocket and you take it everywhere with you, and you have fun that way with it. And frankly, if it gets broken or lost, it's not that big of a deal, because, you know, this is not a collector's item. So from that standpoint, yeah, I can see it. You know, if you have a kid, or if you just enjoy Bumblebee and you want to add it to the collection, that's great. But overall, I think this could probably be a pass for most people, particularly at the price point. So this was purchased at Target in North America, and it was $15, $14.99. So $15 US is what you pay to get this combo pack. And honestly, I don't know if it's worth that. I think $10 would have been a more competitive price point. especially when you look at some of the core class figures that you're getting for the War for Cybertron trilogy. You get a lot of engineering and you get a lot of really nice paint apps, and overall they just feel like a higher quality figure than what this does. But this is by no means is this geared toward collectors. This is geared towards getting this for a kid so the kid can play with it, maybe an entry-level Transformers kind of thing for them. So with that being said, yeah, I guess I give it a really soft recommendation. There's not going to be any miracles here. There won't be any surprises. But if you like Bumblebee and you want to get it for a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew or somebody who's just getting into the Transformers, I think this is a good starter kit, if you will. So with that, we're going to wrap up the review. As always, thanks for tuning in. If you like what we do here, be sure to hit that like button. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already done so. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to see and what we could be doing to make the channel better. The channel grows because of you guys, so I appreciate all the input. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.